This is Bonnita Fund.
So my name is Bonnita and Nyamwire, and I work for policy as a director of research. So I lead the research team. Policy is LLICY. It's an acronym that stands for poll as in gather information and use it to influence policy change. So influencing policy change can be through advocacy, can be through awareness raising, can be through capacity building, can be through so many ways. So policy is based in Kampala in Uganda, and so we work at the intersection of data, design and technology for women and girls across the African continent. My journey is mainly through research. Yeah, so because of the work that we do on digital technology for women and girls, so it is through research, that my research work, that I get connected to politics because of investigating, if I can use that word, or studying that area, and this is with women in politics. So the work that we have done as policy in our research study in Uganda in 2021, following the 2021 general elections, and then also in Kenya in I think 2022 in their general elections, to understand the landscape of TFGBV among women in politics, because previously 2020 we had done a study on the very first study on TFGBV across 5 African countries, that's Uganda, Kenya, Senegal, Ethiopia and South Africa, to understand the experiences of women who use internet. So we got to find out, to discover a lot of things, and some of the key things were women, yes, they use the internet, but also they have challenges. Most of them, they do not have digital literacy, so there was need for capacity building as a call to action. Then we also understand that yes, all women, most of them in those countries, they are affected by TFGBV. At that time, it was online gender-based violence, but most of them didn't even know that, oh, they are experiencing this kind of violence. They didn't know how to describe it, but they would describe scenarios. And then, so most of them were experiencing TFGBV. You'd find that the prevalence is 32%, 28%, 33%. But also, a very key thing that we noted was that there are categories of women that are more affected than the others. So these were women in politics, women in the media, women human rights defenders and activists. And it's because of the work that they do. Women politicians, they interact with constituents, they interact with a lot of other stakeholders daily. Women in the media, the same thing. She's on TV, she's online looking for news, so they interact again physically, but also online. The same applies to women human rights defenders. You know, they are interacting with different stakeholders on different platforms. They are advancing and amplifying voices of women, actually women human rights defenders and women politicians, you know, advancing the gender equality, you know, discourse, and they experience a lot of backlash both online and offline. For us as policy, discovering that those categories are significantly affected, we moved ahead to now study them, each one of them. So in our next research, we actually looked at those three categories: women human rights defenders, women in the media, and women politicians, understanding TFGBV. That was in Senegal, in Zambia, and in Uganda and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Yeah, so all these reports I'm talking about, they are available on our website, www.policy.org. So again, you could see that those three groups are like kind of interconnected. You find that women in the media are reporting on issues that women politicians experience. But how are they reporting on these issues? They report in a way that re-traumatizes this woman politicians who has already experienced TFGBV. And then you find that we also found that actually also women in the media somehow do not outrightly report on these issues of TFGBV. They kind of fear, they are silent, you know. They fear to report about them because they do not know how the other person will feel and something like that. So anyway, so from this, from research, it is where I have I think come closer working with women in politics, and then from those researches I have talked about, so I have been leading on them in terms of developing tools for data collection, in terms of interacting with the women, collecting the data, speaking to them, analyzing the data, writing the reports, disseminating to the women in smaller groups and also in large groups, but also speaking about issues of TFGBV among women in politics in different spaces and conferences. Yeah, so that's how I have come to interact with politics. Through research and also through the project that we did from those researchers, Vote Women project, looking at women in politics only. So each of those categories, we've actually had a project for them to do digital literacy skilling, and then also safety and security online. So we did it for women in politics in Uganda and Senegal, and then also in Tanzania. And then women, the other women categories we have also done in a separate project. Yeah, so my politics journey is not really participation in politics, but it is through research and then advocacy, yeah, and awareness raising, but also building the capacity of these women, yeah. So the numbers, women representation in these countries, of course, it is increasing. However, the women, so one, there's still gender stereotypes that affect women representation, first of all. So representation begins from campaigns allowing a woman to stand and contest for a parliamentary seat or local government seat. And also the challenges begin from that end. For instance, there is a woman who shared while we disseminated our work. She said the husband would not allow her to go and campaign because he says, one, she's going to meet other men there. Secondly, she has to do her chores at home. And then when she goes on radio, he was like, oh, everybody will see you on no, it was TV actually. I said, everybody will see you on TV, so you'll no longer be my wife. So you see, so he said, you either choose to go and be everybody's wife on TV, or you stay here and be my wife. And so she had to stop the business of going to TV and then do her campaigns offline, actually. So it begins from allowing this woman to contest and then also to go and do campaigns. So the women, yes, the numbers are increasing, but they go through a lot of challenges. they experience a lot as they, contest for those positions, some of the things that I have talked about already. But also when they get those positions, and then also you find that they lack mentorship. They lack mentorship as they grow in their political positions as they contest. So that is also an area that needs to be looked at, mentoring the young women to come into. Yes, they are partners who are mentoring them, like Akina Mama wa Africa. It does leadership training for young girls into political leadership. But there needs to be more other stakeholders to come on board and do that. So there is a lack of that mentorship and building their confidence. And so because of that gap, you find that younger women, they fear contesting because they have seen what has been happening to their predecessors, and they say, oh, I don't want to go through that. So those are things they were sharing with us. When they see online, they see also offline, they are like, no, I don't want to be like so and so. I would rather just drop out of this or remain at the level where, because we have also seen that as one goes into higher levels of politics, the more backlash they experience. Yeah. So there are those gender stereotypes, and then there is also, of course, the systems that we operate in, there's also the misogyny, that also accompanies them. But also when they get those positions and go into leadership positions, either at, let's say, city mayor or member of parliament, so you'll find that most of them, again, they are shut down, I think, because of the way the system is made. So the patriarchal system issue comes in because of the way the system is. You find that, yes, she has gained entry, she's in parliament, she's at the city level, but again, not expressing herself, not, advancing the women agenda the way it should be. So you find that they are shut down, and that is where, like, continuous mentorship should be very important, for these women. And I already gave an example that when we're in Kenya, in Nairobi, for a certain meeting with the women parliamentarians, their leader in parliament, the speaker, was saying, we have women, yes, we have the numbers, we have not achieved, but we have a good number in parliament, but they are not coming out to present bills, to that self-initiative of saying, I am the one now to, front this bill. And we see it across different parliaments across the African continent. So they will sit, and you see that it's the men who are coming out, they are presenting the bills, they are taking leave to go and look at this bill, and something like that. So that's also an area, and it's because, again, of the system, and then the backlash, that women experience. I'll give an example of one woman in Uganda who used to be very vocal. She was a politician, but she used to really talk about issues of that time there was a lot of defilement and rape, and then she was saying, no, the men who are raping, and she said it on the floor of parliament, we are going to castrate them, But so many years after she left parliament, she told us that even after presenting that bill, that the bill should be harsh on men who are defiling young girls, she said that fellow women would meet her in the restroom and say, what are you doing? Why can't you keep quiet? Men are going to kill you. So you see, so there is that fear because of the way the system is, that women have the inbuilt fear. But I believe it can go away with mentorship. It can go away with that continuous mentorship and like capacity building. So those are most of the challenges mainly. So the numbers are growing, but what are we getting from the numbers? We do not see the women on the floor of parliament presenting the bills and coming out strongly. Yes, there are some that they are presenting, but we would like to see them come out strongly, you know, more than before. 2030 is not very far away from where we are to present what we have done on the sustainable development goals. I keep wondering and thinking, what are we going to present? I keep seeing that gender-based violence, again, like I was seeing on the news, that the prevalence has increased. It has gone high in Uganda, as high as 51%. So where are our women in parliament? So the system, the backlash, I think, has also increased for women. But also remember, they get burnout. If it is 2 women who are on the floor parliament, there are 100 women, but only 2 are always on the floor of parliament, they get burnout. So we need to have like structures in place for them to keep supporting them, maybe psychosocial support or something like that, so that, because that burnout that comes here. We've done research, but we developed a program for women in politics to build their capacity on digital literacy skills, but also safety and security online. And we did this in Uganda, Tanzania, and Senegal. The first cohort, we had 20 women in Uganda, 20 women in Tanzania. There are so many women in politics. 20 is a small number. So, and that was small because of the funding. And then we did a second cohort and increased the number to 30 and also added the third country. But again, 30 is also still a small number. It would be bigger than that, but because of the funding. So those who are bringing resources to civil society organizations like policy, I think it's what they need is like to increase on the fund, because when the fund is big, then our scope of work also increases. Instead of looking at one country, we can actually look at more countries, more than one. Or if our focus was one country, instead of having a small number, the scope of work, you know, becomes bigger because the fund is also bigger, you see. And so many women were interested in joining the cohort, but we did not have enough resources, because every time, so during the training, we used to train them online. So training online, it means they have, and we're doing, because now we also wanted them to learn how to connect to the platforms, and we're using Zoom. So it meant we had to facilitate them with a fee to connect, to buy data bundles to be able to connect to the internet, you know. So that's an expense already. But also we didn't stop at that. Because we wanted to continue with these women, and up to today we still have them. So we organize like meetings where we workshops, or if there is like a regional conference like Africa IGF, Internet Governance Forum, or anything to do with internet or data governance. So we grab that opportunity and we bring at least 3 women or 2, depending on the fund that we have, to come and speak in those conferences, to come and also interact with other women politicians in those conferences. But you find also, because of the limited fund, we are not able to bring more women, you know. But it would be nice, because a global conference, for instance, like this one, it would be good when you have women coming from different parts of the country meeting, like here in the session that we had, sharing experiences, learning from each other, and something like that, you know. So the philanthropists, the call to action for them is to actually look at the areas which these women, where these women need a lot of support and bring them together. We've been talking about mentorship. How can we do mentorship for these women in politics? You know, what is needed? So, like, there's need to look at those areas. We are saying digital literacy. We are saying safety and security. You know, so, and you see, for us, we focused on a small number at the lower level, but maybe also in the middle levels. You know, so at different levels, women require training. So the funding usually is limited, so it limits also the scope of work. But also the other thing is digital technology like support. If I can speak in the context of the work that we do as policy, is something that you can't do a program, let's say maybe for a month. It is something that you need to do maybe for some good months, you know, some good time, maybe 6 months, as you do an evaluation and get to see, you know, what have they learned, how are they using. So again, it depends on the funding that you have. I feel that philanthropists need to sit on a table with stakeholders who are doing this work, especially civil society. Academia mostly will do a research and end there, but civil society will do a research and then go on to even implement some programs for these women. So it is sitting with them and understanding what are these needs, you know, and so that they can fund some of those specific areas actually, to support these women to be resilient and remain in the political space. I think democracy means freedom. Freedom to me, freedom of people to participate in political discourse, conversations, anything at any time, freely. They should be free. Is there a conversation on X? They should be able, everybody, men, women, girls, boys, they should be able to participate in that conversation freely, you know, share their opinions, share their insights, their perspectives, you know. Is it a rally that is going on? They should be able to participate freely. So freely, all people, women, men, they should be able. And in Africa, I think there's a limitation on women and girls to participate freely in democratic conversations, you know, whether it is online, whether it is offline, whether it is in parliament, whether it is in small conversations at the grassroots level, you'll find that there's a limitation that women and girls experience, and so they are not free, they are unable to freely participate in democratic conversations, participate freely, again because of the patriarchal system and structures so that we live in as an African continent, but also globally. Yeah, so that is the biggest hindrance, you know. I know that in one of the studies that I was talking about that we did on women human rights defenders and women in politics and media on TUFGBV, so women in DRC, someone told me that they tell them that women politics is not your space. Even in other countries they have been told, this is not your space. These are hard issues for you, you know. Go and discuss things to do with maybe education, you know, what is it called, care, you know, home care, but politics, these are things which are hard, they are for men. The same applies to women in the media who report on politics and democratic issues. They are told that you can't report on these issues. They are not your area. They are areas for men. These are hard. How will you synthesize the political issues and report on them very well? So even the media house you'll find that they said they give those assignments to report on democratic issues, political issues to the men, not the ladies, not the women in media. So you find that democracy at the different levels, you know, there are barriers for women. Whether the woman is reporting, there are barriers for her. Whether the woman is an activist or woman human rights defender amplifying the ideas and agendas of women in politics, she also faces barriers, you know. She will be told, you can't go to do this, you know, but also she may not have resources, or she will be told, you cannot articulately discuss these political issues because you are a woman. This is an area for men, you know, because it is a male-dominated area. If the woman is now into politics, practicing politics, again, there are barriers. So democracy should be free for everyone, you know, men, women, you know, to be able to participate freely, to share their ideas. If it is voting, they should all vote. If it is a debate, they should be able to debate, yeah. I look forward to like seeing women like come together in I know that yes, they usually come together, but like they usually come together like how we have come here for CSW, but in other small gatherings to discuss their issues, to share their experiences as women in politics, you know, at different levels. And these gatherings should be able to bring together women from, if I can use Africa, from different African regions, the Francophone, the Lusophone is those ones in South African part, then East Africa, then Central Africa. So they come together and share experiences, because I find that most of those who come together to share experiences, it's women at the highest level of politics, members of parliament or speakers, women speakers, but it's very hard to hear women at the grassroots. And the speaker or the woman member of parliament came from the lower level. So it's very important to bring those women into these conversations, into these spaces, and that is what we are doing as policy. We are not really working a lot with women members of parliament, but we are focusing on women at the grassroots level because they are coming up to occupy these positions. So I think that is something I'm looking forward, to seeing women at the grassroots coming in these spaces, and then also sharing and learning from each other. Yeah.
This is Bonnita Nyamwire Fund.